Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today we have something cool. I'm at the Pima Air and Space Museum in Tucson, Arizona. And I am standing under an SR-71 Blackbird. So no need to look at my ugly face. Let's turn this camera around, huh? Those of you who don't know, this is the North American F-107. This is loosely based on the F-100. Very loosely based. It's what it started out as, very modified. These are pretty fast actually. It's a big size bird. It's never really been up close to one before, so it's a beast. This museum has some really neat stuff. If you're ever in the area near Phoenix or Tucson, definitely come check it out. I'm gonna do some walk arounds on some of the cooler stuff here, so you guys can check it out. There's a D-21 drone over there, which is pretty cool. They get some really cool stuff in here. Look at this bad boy. I think this is a Martin. I don't know my seaplanes too well. Yeah, it's a Martin Mariner. Man, what a beast. Probably 4360s or might be 3350s or 3360s. Dang. Man, what a monster. Cool bird. This museum has a lot of civilian stuff too, which is pretty cool. There's another unique airplane that you've probably never even seen pictures of. This is also like a Martin product. Columbia, way off. That's interesting. Looks like it would be very slow. There's some really cool stuff in here. I'm gonna go check out some of the other airplanes. Oh, what are the other airplanes that's in this particular building that I'd never even heard of until I came to this museum last time was the Bolo bomber, which is, if you've never heard that, you might be wondering, what the heck is the Bolo bomber? Oh, what a sexy airplane. The SR-71 just is popular, but for a good reason. It's just amazing. It's really a marvel of engineering, is what it really is. Sweet little Recon Cougar here. So this is the Bolo, and if it looks like a C-47, just uglier, you would be correct. It's pretty much a bomber version of the C-47. So here you go, Douglas Bolo. And I had no idea this airplane existed until I came here. I looked through lots of books and seen lots of videos and stuff, but
Souvenirs? Souvenirs?
this thing's pretty cool though. So yeah, it's basically C-47 with a bomb bay and a couple of turrets and stuff. Really neat. Of course, we have the old Hoover here. Very cool. Let's check out the A-10 real quick. So if you've never been up close to an A-10, it is a beast. These things are freaking huge. I'm 6'2", and I'm barely taller than the underneath of the airplane. And the struts are pretty compressed too, so anyways. Let's go check out some of the stuff outside. They got a massive collection here. More pretty neat airplanes over on this side. So this is the original McDonnell Phantom FH1. So before the F4 Phantom, there was this Phantom. That's the Phantom 2. This is the Phantom 1. This is one of the Navy's very first jet fighters. Pretty cool, and not very many of these in existence. It's an odd looking airplane, but kind of neat at the same time. Of course, we have the Tomcat. Hard to go wrong there. Hard to go wrong here. Beautiful Canada Air Sabre. And then we have some showbirds over here. So obviously this is a Thunderbirds F4E. And this baby is the Grumman F11 Tiger. Not many people know about this airplane. It's not popular in the modeling world for whatever reason. I would imagine it would make a really good flying model, but this thing's really pretty. Not a whole lot of these left either. They didn't make tons of them, but they were in service for a while, especially with test and reserve units. And the Blue Angels actually flew them for quite a number of years. She's pretty. Phantom's alright. That's a big airplane, man. If you've never been up close to a Phantom, it's a beast, for sure. Alright, let's go outside. Some cool stuff out there. And so here's what you see when you walk out. And this is, like I said, only part of the collection. This dirt space out here, the outside collection is just massive. So I'll hit on some of the more rare stuff and we'll go from there. It's a nice little F5B. A7, of course. And we have more commonly known airplanes in this area. There's some really cool stuff here. So A10 right there. It's also right next to Davis Monthan Air Force Base, so Wolf F-102. A couple of thuds over here. This is another airplane that'll really surprise you in just how large it is. If you've never, I mean, here's a Phantom, twin engine, and the F-105 is bigger than a Phantom. It's just gigantic. This is a 2-seat, so it's even bigger than a regular thud. It's just, these things are ridiculous. Look how high this wing is. This is a single engine airplane. Like I said, this wing is probably 2.5 feet above my head. Long, spindly gear. Really cool bird. The RF 101. I always like the RF 101. I like the nose on it for some reason. Most recon birds look kind of funny, but the Voodoo I think looks pretty cool. Alright, let's check it. Ooh, P80. Man, I could spend a lot of time here. So here we have the P80. Looks like it has a T-33 wing on it. Some of the later P80s had the T-33 wing. And you know it's a T-33 wing because the tip tank is mounted on the center of the wing, or the tank. And they're not droppable, whereas the older P80s had the rounded tips with the lower slung drop tanks. This is an F94, which is a modified T-33 with an afterburner. That's why the back's so big. And that's the one with the swept stabs on it. It's kind of an odd airplane, but pretty cool. And we got F84G, straight wing. And the swept wing F84 over there. And I'm standing underneath the Northrop F94 Scorpion, another big, really big airplane. F100, of course, that's a pretty common airplane. 102 is a cool airplane. I guess you don't see very many of those either, but I always like the 101. It's just a cool looking jet. These poor birds sitting out here are all faded, and it's hard to keep them looking good sitting out here in the Arizona heat, but this is another really big airplane. Most of these Century Series jets from the Vietnam era are just massive birds. This thing is really cool, and I'd love to build a model of one of these someday. There's a 2-seat 104, which is kind of funny looking, honestly. Here's the Recon nose. They always carried these drop tanks under the fuselage. It looks kind of funny, but we've got a smorgasbord of Harriers here. Obviously the earlier ones, 2-seat ones, the British built ones. Pretty cool. Alright, let's check this stuff out down here. Another shot of the Northrop F89. Kind of a weird looking airplane. Huge wing, just massive wing. Big old Hershey bar wing on that thing. So here's a look at the F94. You can tell it started out as a T-33, but there's not much left of the T-33. This is the later It's got these rocket pods built into the wing. It's crazy. And there's a regular Voodoo, so that's just a regular 2-seat. So the nose looks short and, I don't know, kind of blunt. To me, the RF nose looks better. So anyways, the F94 has swept elevators, which is kind of an interesting look with a straight wing. And here we have a D model Sabre. Not my favorite, kind of ugly. And then here's the F84F, which is a swept wing version. Now the Thunderbirds did fly these, but they were natural metal, not painted white like this. And there's an F16, blah blah blah. This is an F86H, which is mostly the same as the F86F that most people know. The wing's pretty similar, but the fuselage is deeper. It's got a bigger motor, bigger exhaust. The stab is flat. The tail's a little different. The nose has a bigger inlet on it. And it had cannons instead of machine guns. So there's a number of little changes on the H model. Not quite as pretty. The nose is bigger, a big inlet on it. See how the sides look real flat, like they just added material in the center of the fuselage. Here's a T-33. Of course, hard to go wrong there. This one looks like it's been freshly painted. This looks nice. I like this paint scheme. I think I've seen that on some plastic models. And there's a, I don't know if it's a MiG-23 or a 27. I don't know the difference between the two of them, but they're pretty much the same thing, kind of. I think the 27 is the ground attack airplane. The 23 is the fighter. I think this is a 23. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, which I'm sure some people will do. Then we got Tornado and an F-111, which is a huge airplane. And I don't have time to see everything here, but I'm going to take a cruise around some of this big stuff out here. We got a bunch of Navy birds over there, which is what I'm excited about because I love Navy airplanes. Oh boy, lots of stuff out here. Beautiful bird. This is a Lockheed Constellation airliner designed in the 40s or late 40s, early 50s. Beautiful airplane. Was one of the first pretty fast, pretty long distance airliners that was used back in the 50s. Got a lot of civilian stuff out here, even some home built stuff. That is a brain fart. That little high wing right there. That is a BD airplane. BD kit built. Ooh. I know somebody that might be interested in this. Little Beechcraft Starship. Super cool. Turboprop canard. Civilian, you know, kind of like a business airplane. These things are weird, but super cool. So I don't know the full story behind the Starship, but it's a really neat looking airplane. I'm not sure why they never really caught on. Like I said, I don't know much about the history of the airplane. It's basically a really big long easy with big motors. That's pretty much what it is. I mean, essentially. But it's super cool looking. Quite the interesting airplane, that's for sure. Didn't realize it had flaps on it. It's strange for a canard airplane, I guess. Maybe not, though. Very interesting. Yes, on the forward planes, you can see the shadow actually swept back and forth. Pretty crazy stuff. Neat airplane. Super cool. There's another airplane that I had never even heard of before until I went to the U.S. Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. That was built by Northrop. And I forget the name. I think it's called the Raider, maybe? Anyways. Weird airplane. Transport. 3 engines. Super strange. There's the B-36 out there. Woo, big boy. Lockheed Jetstar, which is... a lot of people like these. I think they're kind of funny looking, personally. It's just kind of... It's like something like a cartoon or something from the 60s, you know? It's like a Buick with wings. I don't know. They're just kind of bulky and weird looking. I'm not sure this is a real K model. It probably is. So this is the A26K, which was developed during the Vietnam War from the original A26, later called B26, made by Douglas. This had a stiffened wing and extra hard points, more powerful engines, huge props as you can see. There's one flying called Special K, and was restored not too long ago. But the A26s had wing spar issues after a certain amount of hours, and so not many A26s are flying anymore, and a lot of them were used for fire bombers at one point in their lives, so they got worn out pretty good. The K model is a cool airplane. I think it's a Harpoon, I think. I don't know. I know my fighters more than my twin engine and bigger stuff, but there's some really interesting cargo stuff out here too. Fairchild. This is a old C-130 here. It's like an albatross, some Grumman albatross. Pretty sure that's what that is. There's still a few of those flying in the world. There was one that flew into Tehachapi a number of years ago, and it's pretty cool to see that thing come in. Of course, the Beechcraft Twin, which are really pretty airplanes. This is a very early C-130. You can tell by the three-bladed props. Wow, super. This one's got skis on it. Must be a... oh, it's got the Arctic paint scheme on it. So they used to fly these things all over the place and land them on friggin' icebergs and crap. There's a Saberliner, and that's an early Saberliner, a short one. Let me walk over there real quick. Just to show you, looks like this one's pulled out of mothballs not too long ago. It's still got the covering over all the windows. So it's like a thick paint they put over all the windows and all the important stuff to protect them from the sun. See all the portholes all have the same paint on them. And they seal up all the engines and the props to help preserve them. Pretty cool. Ooh, I like those. Those are good looking twins. It's a Convair, I think. So here's a Saberliner. Poor little fella. This is an early one with the smaller motors and the real short fuselage. So you can tell it's only got the two windows on the side. My friend Paul designed one of these and built it as a model, and it's a wonderful flying airplane. I started mine, I just haven't finished it like half the other airplanes in my garage. So this is a big transport that was developed in the 60s, I believe. And there's only a few of these that exist anymore. A couple of them were in my hobby for a long time. Sitting out there rotting away. But you don't see too much on these airplanes. Got this Cargo Master C-133. Big motors. There's some videos of these things flying and they have a real odd sound. Probably because the prop tips come real close to each other. So it almost sounds like a pusher airplane because the props just make tons of noise. Yeah, lots of cool stuff out here. This is a super goony bird. It's got bigger motors on it. Landing gear doors, a different tail. You don't see many of these either. This one's for the Navy. And this is a Globe Master. These things are huge. So, huge cargo plane, big opening doors underneath the nose. And I mean, you can tell how big it is. I'm standing underneath it. These are 4360s, spinning these three-bladers. Big motors. Holy cow, look at these freaking wheel wells. This thing is massive. Man. Whew. This old girl's seen better days, but that's cool, it's still around. So these tires come up to about my neck. So that's about a 5-foot tall tire. Thing is huge. Big old balloons. Now, you think this thing's big, wait till we get to the B-36. Those things are ridiculous. This has 4360s, but that's got 6 of them plus jet engines. Man, this thing's a monster. I've never really been underneath one of these before. It's a big bird. So here's an airplane based off of the B-29. It's a later variant. So this also had 4360s and turbochargers. That's why we got all these crazy pipes and scoops underneath here. I don't know which model this is exactly. This might be a tanker version that was changed and used for something else, because it looks kind of like. So the B-50 was a later version of the B-29. That was a bomber, later turned into a tanker. Strato freighter. Okay, so this is a freight airplane. So there's a number of different versions of this. So here's a tanker version right here. She'll look down the line a little bit. So this is the same airplane but used for in-flight refueling. So big motors. And if you've seen the NASA Guppy, it's actually based on a B-29. Well, based on a C-97. This got turboprops. Got a couple of trackers over here, which are really cool airplanes. And the British, oh, the British with their beautiful aircraft designs. I swear, I don't know what they have against pretty airplanes, but they don't make very many of them. Sorry, British people. So here's a B-50. This is a B-29, basically with big motors. Yeah, so those are 4360s. Okay, so my phone overheated. It's 100 degrees out here. So speaking of ugly British airplanes, sorry again to the English folk. This is a Avro Shackleton, which is powered by 4 Griffins. It's quite the interesting looking airplane. Ugly, but there's a special version of the Sky Raider. Pretty neat. Of course, the B-47, which is a cool airplane. And the B-36 is a beast. Let me get closer and then we'll turn the camera back on. So if you don't know much about the B-36, it's a massive nuclear capable bomber that had 6 4360 radials buried inside the wing. And then I think those are J-47s and 4 jet engines mounted to the wings. Just ridiculous. This thing is freaking huge. There's actually tunnels in the wings where you could crawl out to the engines and service them while you're flying. That's how big this thing is. Insane. So speaking of cool airplanes that I would love to model one day, this is the Dassault A-10 Dard, which is kind of like a Mirage, but with a swept wing and a regular tail. It's a cool looking airplane. I love that weird nose on it. Probably make an awesome flying model. Then here we have a Seppicat Shagwire. The British did okay with this one. It's alright. They're pretty cool actually. They got neat landing gear on them. It's a pretty cool looking airplane. Birds over here, so if any of you know me, you know that I love F5 family airplanes. It's a pretty little F5E. This is another airplane that I would love to model one day. And this is a beast of an airplane for a single engine. There's a reason why these things didn't do so great, because they had tiny inlets, motors didn't produce what they were supposed to, and it's a big airplane. It's a McDonnell Demon, and it has a giant, fat, swept wing on it. It's like a Hershey bar wing, but it's swept. Just huge. Another airplane most people don't know much about because they're not very popular, but it's a cool looking airplane, I think. I like the back of it. Exhaust is kind of like, look at that big fat wing. That's cool. And the Panther. Who doesn't love a Panther? I love Panthers. Cool airplane for sure. Early Navy fighter bomber. If you don't know much about them. And looks like we have the trainer row over here, which is kind of cool. So we got a Beech twin, and we got a T-34, T-38, T-37, and an F-102 trainer, T-33. And here's your standard issue F4 Phantom. This is a North American FJ4 Fury, loosely based on the earlier Furies, which are based off of the F-86 Sabre. Another airplane I would love to model one day. Cool airplane. Neat features like knuckle landing gear, the struts, and stuff like that. This is a Banshee, which is another early Navy bird. And of course, the Skyray. Anyone who knows me also knows I'm obsessed with Skyrays. Let's take a look at this beast. So Skyray's a Delta Wing airplane designed in the late 40s, early 50s. And this is an early model, you can tell by the exhaust. This might actually be one of the prototypes. So this fairing right here is a little different than the later versions. So, pretty cool. Here's another airplane that I love. This is the RA5. I like the A5 more because it doesn't have that hump underneath. But this is the recon version of the A5, which was a nuclear attack airplane originally. And these are all cameras down here in this big pod. Huge airplane, very fast. Very fast for its size. You got T-28, T-2 Buckeye, which is another airplane I love to build. You got a Prowler. Ugh, that thing is sexy. Too many airplanes, guys. I'm just kind of like running through here. There's so much stuff to look at. You could spend an entire day here. Here's a really nice A6. Looks like it's been freshly painted. I always like the A6 too. Kind of an ugly airplane, but it's a neat, ugly airplane, if that makes sense. Here's a pretty cool A7 right here. I think this one saw service in Desert Storm. It's a very early version of the A4. You can tell by the super short nose and the smaller inlets. Pretty neat though. I love all A4s. It's cool looking. Who doesn't love an A4, honestly? Such a cool airplane. Ooh, F8. And not many people know about. Douglas Sky Knight, which is like a early 50s night fighter. Doesn't look like a fighter, but had a big radar on the nose. Had a two-person crew. Kind of like the granddaddy to the A6, I think. Here's a F8 in drone controller scheme. Pretty cool. F8's another really cool airplane that I'd love to build one day. So sleek. Just looks fast sitting there. It's kind of odd because it's a high wing, but it is a neat airplane. It's a big airplane too. It's very long. Behind it's a MiG-29, which they're actually much smaller than you would think because it's a twin engine. You would think it's a big airplane, but it's really not. It's about the size of an F-16, so it's not very big. Looks like they couldn't source a canopy for this one. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And of course the MiG-21, cool airplane, light Western fighter, very fast. Bunch of MiGs. Never did care for this one. I think this is it's a 17, but it's a weird version with like a radar in the nose. Kind of odd looking. The Russians know how to make them ugly too. Oof. This is a regular 17. A bunch of Russian stuff here. We have two-seat MiG-15. It's kind of cool. Look at that. So this is a Douglas B-66, and there was a Navy version of this called the A3D. Big airplane, supposed to be a bomber. Air Force used these as like a electronics aircraft during Vietnam for electronic warfare type stuff. All kinds of different roles. Big airplane. Huge, really. It was the biggest airplane to ever see active duty on aircraft carriers, at least the Navy version. So this bad boy right here is the Convair B-58. The B-58 was a supersonic bomber developed in the 50s, the 60s. Very cool airplane, very fast. It looks really big in pictures, but honestly it's not very big in person. It's not much bigger in overall dimensions than say the A5. I mean, it's longer and stuff, but it's not very big in girth, I'll say. But that's a drop tank in the center, pretty crazy. So it was meant to carry, I think the bomb was actually that part of it, and this was a drop tank that would drop away, and then they had the bomb. Crazy. This nose gear like folded up so it could clear the drop tank, so the nose gear would fold and then go up inside. The main gear pretty crazy too. Neat airplane. All kinds of cool stuff out here. There's some more of the, I think that's a French airplane. Anyways, pretty cool. Sky Warrior, which is the Navy version of the destroyer. Very similar. Well, it's actually the Navy airplane first, and then the Air Force adopted it, but big bird. Got a nice little helicopter collection, but I'm not really into copters. So apparently there's another hangar that I didn't even know about last time I was here. So this has a lot of World War II stuff in it. So this, remember we talked earlier about the A-26K. This is based off of this airplane, which is the original A-26. Later designated B-26, I think during the Korean War. And here's a Russian Stormovik, which is a very rare airplane. Not many of these exist, and I've never seen one in person. Pretty cool. And this is a Storch, which is a German short takeoff, short landing observation airplane from World War II, although this looks like it's a different version maybe. A B-24. A really pretty B-24, all polished. Very cool. A lot of guys died in these airplanes. A lot of Americans pounding these rivets too. Thousands of these airplanes were built, which is just incredible to think about. So if you don't know what that is, that's a turbocharger for the engine. It's pretty cool. There's a Hawker Hurricane, a really pretty one actually. This is one of the airplanes that definitely helped shape the war for England in the beginning of the war. Save their butts. Fuselage covered in fabric, if you can believe that. So here's a C-47. So this is the cargo variant that the Bolo came from. Pretty cool. And these are very cool. These were target drones, but also could be piloted. It's a PQ-14. Super neat little airplane. Honestly, I would love to have one, like a real one, or at least build a model of it. It's got a really almost elliptical shaped wing. Really cool looking little plane. Retractable landing gear. Super neat. Here's the information if you've never heard of one before. Pretty cool. Come around to the front side here. We got some U.S. Army training airplanes over here. Glider. A PT-19. Fairchild. Pretty sweet. And this is a Cessna twin engine trainer. They call these bamboo bombers. Pretty cool. Then we have our beach. This is a bomber trainer, so it has like a bombardier location up front with a bomb site and everything else. This was for training purposes during the war. And I think they could drop small bombs out of the bottom, but I'm not 100% sure. Pretty cool though. AT-11, that's what it's called. There's another shot of C-47. PT-22, which is another really cool airplane. Beautiful B-24. It's crazy. There's all kinds of hangars here that I had no idea about. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Super cool. So this is a P-39. I love P-39s. What a cool airplane. Motor in the middle. And this is the Navy version, basically, of the B-24. Has a single tail instead of a twin tail. A little bit different cowling arrangement, which is pretty odd. There's a shot of the P-39. Gorgeous B-25. Get back to that one. Oof, love the P-39. Cool airplane. Yeah, so here's the Navy version. It's got different turrets and huge single tail versus the twin tail. This is also a really cool airplane. I got a fixed gear Harvard up there, which is pretty cool. And this, I forget the name of this. This is I'm gonna feel stupid when I see the plaque. Blenheim, man. Bristol. Cool World War II bomber. Check out these crazy setups. I think those pipes up there are cooling air for the exhaust, because this was a night fighters or night bombers, so to keep the flames down at night so people couldn't see them, they have these air scoops that cool off the exhaust and stuff. Pretty crazy. So the official designation is PB4Y2 privateer for this. Like I said, it's pretty much a B-24, just changed for the Navy. You have a beautiful P-40. Ooh, this is nice. Texan up here. I like that paint scheme. Cool cowling. So who doesn't love a P-40? Honestly, I like this paint scheme a lot. Very cool. Ooh, all kinds of good stuff. Here's another very rare airplane. This is a Oscar, Japanese Oscar. Very lightweight. This was one of their main early fighters during World War II. Cool looking bird. Got Catalina here. BT-13. Always like those. And this is definitely one of my favorite Spitfire variants. Bubble canopy with the clip wings and the Griffin motor and the big tail. Very pretty. And then you have the Turkey, the Avenger. These things are massive. That's pretty. Man, I had no idea these hangars were over here. I feel like I got gypped last time I came here. There's so much stuff in this museum, it's insane. Yeah, you could definitely spend an entire day, maybe even 2 days, looking through everything closely. I love how everything in the museum you can get underneath and up to. A lot of museums keep everything roped off. And I'm walking underneath this beautiful B-25. And the hits keep on coming. Ever seen an A-20 Havoc in person? Not me. Cool airplane. So this is kind of the predecessor to the A-26. This one only had a single pilot though, so really cool airplane. We got a C-46 Commando, which was a really big transport for the war. Huge airplane. Yeah, the Havoc's a cool airplane. Ooh boy. So this is a later variant Corsair Dash 4. You can tell by the single chin scoop on it and the 4-blade prop. Well, this appears to be an early Dash 4 with 6 guns instead of the 4 cannons. It's got the hard points for the rockets and very pretty. There's a shot of the Commando. And here's a Grumman Tiger Cat, another beautiful airplane. Big bird. Very nicely done. A MiG and a Sabre. Ooh, that's pretty. And they got a B-29 in here, all polished. Pretty cool. Here's a P-51. This is a Pacific Theater paint scheme. Painted up in the markings of the guy that accidentally shot down one of his own airplanes. So he served in the European Theater and the Pacific Theater. And this is a P-63, which is a upgraded version of the P-39. More horsepower, completely different wing, stretched fuselage, 4-bladed prop. These are really pretty airplanes, actually. Definitely cool. Man, I had no idea these other hangars were here. Crazy. Here's a couple of interesting Japanese artifacts. So this is basically an Oka, but a trainer Oka. So that way you can learn how to commit suicide. Crazy stuff. Here's another kamikaze airplane. They were just building whatever they could, basically, with whatever they had. Probably not too many of those hit ships, I would imagine. And this is the Army version of the Dauntless. So this was called a Banshee, an A-24. Not something that many people know about. So I don't think they made very many of them. And here we have an FM2, which is the later version of the Wildcat. Had a different motor, different tail. Pretty good performing little airplanes, actually. And a lot of people don't give the Wildcat enough credit, but they saw a lot of service during the war. Did a lot of work, that's for sure. Man, look at this big B-29. Ooh. Little steerman up there. Who doesn't love a steerman, honestly? Here's a cutaway of a 4360. So this is a 28-cylinder radial engine that we saw on the B-50s and the Globemaster. That's just crazy. That's a supercharger right there. Carburetor, and then there's that one big crank. Freaking awesome. That's a lot of moving parts. It's amazing that it worked. And it's no wonder why jet engines caught on so quickly. Not very many moving parts to fail, that's for sure, compared to a piston airplane. Awesome. So I figured we'd finish the video where we started, by the SR-71. I don't have a lot of time, so just kind of ran through the museum, but you could definitely spend a lot of time here. Super neat museum. Tons of stuff. So if you ever get a chance, definitely come check it out. Just a massive collection of really cool stuff. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment, and we'll see you in the next one.